Activities at the fun day, which began about 12 o'clock, attracted thousands of people, ready and willing to take advantage of clearing skies to slip into a carnival atmosphere and enjoy the attractions of Sideshow Alley. Hundreds of items, including watches, electrical appliances, gift vouchers and show days, with a total retail value in excess of $30,000. The donations from the local and national business community not only enabled money to be raised for telethon, but also encouraged footgetters to pick up bargains of a lifetime. One of the best loved attractions, however, and one which epitomised the high spirit and goodwill of the visitors, was the nearly empty Glory Castle. 16 teams pitted their wits and their abilities in a battle-restricting first-person fight event. Horse racing, relaying water jugs over a slippery surface, root-beer racing, and is not like this or this. It's just that this time to avoid the dunking. Activities will also continue in the evening with a concert featuring local and international artists. The final runners in the telephone marathon will also be running.
The day started off in a money-making vein with the great NBN Telethon auction. Hundreds of bargain hunters surrounded the stage as the auctioneer's hammer fell time after time. $30,000 worth of merchandise was under the watchful eye of the buyers, and it was all donated by national as well as local firms. The auctioneer, Mr. George Keegan, used his time-polished skills to coax the reluctant to buy. With the more than 100 items netting the telethon cancer appeal some $15,000, as well as the swift bidders, some great bargains. For those who weren't in the bidding mood, there was also the attraction of Sideshow Alley, and it was gratifying to know that while you were spending money there, you were also helping the telethon, because 25% of the takings went to the cancer appeal. And just to show that people are willing to go to any length in the telethon, there was the Almost Anything Goes competition. If ever there was any doubt that high spirits had left us during these hard economic times, or that goodwill had gone on strike, this competition showed that they are still alive and kicking. 16 teams entered in the hoop racing, the jug relays, the whiz-bin racing, and the giant ball bounce. Despite popular opinion, these brave people proved it could be done, but not like this, or this, or that. Ah well, it's all for good cause. Meanwhile, from almost every direction, runners were making their way to the International Sports Centre in the Telethon Marathon. 203 participants either ran or rode more than 1,000 kilometres from their 5 starting points in the outer reaches of the NBN viewing area. Each team was sponsored, but the organisers say the tally has yet to be finalised. At the International Sports Centre, the more than 10,000 spectators were enjoying an afternoon of entertainment from some of the biggest names in show business. NBN's John Church, who was joined by Ian Turpin from The Price is Right, hosted the proceedings, and it wasn't too long before they were joined by Kelly and Big Dog. Jazzman James Morrison, that lady of song Judy Stone, and the old rocker himself, Cole Joy, entertained the crowd well into the night. Then came the climax with the entrance of the 5 marathon teams into the arena. Each carried a baton with a message of goodwill from Penny around, and it was with these in hand that they were congratulated for their efforts. The organiser, Mr. Chris Ford, says the 1,000 kilometre marathon went off without a hitch.
So I think the main thing that I'm happy about is that we didn't have any injuries to the runners, that everyone made their way over the 1,000 kilometres and over those kilometres of water as well very safely, and everyone arrived here at the National Sports Centre safe and sound. That's the thing that I'm most happy about.
Then, as a way of saying thank you to the police, the Strait Emergency Service, the service club, runners and spectators, the day ended in a spectacular festoon of fireworks.
There's Watson coming back again, but it's Wilmot the leader. Wilmot away from Watson, who got a dream run on the inside there, and comes up into second place. Poole still going with him. There's Taggart going round the outside. Holy Toledo, they're really into it, and Taggart is down. Watson has let go and hit him, another rider down, and a beautiful piece of dropping there by Jeffrey Dole. Once again, Wilmot Watson hits the top of the track and gets the line up there too, and it's Wilmot the leader, but Watson's got the high level here and he's got the dirt. Wilmot going up a little higher too as they come down the straightaway. Watson goes after him and right around the outside. Watson right around the outside of Wilmot. Followed then by Dave Mills, then Michael Poole, and Dole at the rear. Poole moving up into third spot now, but it's Watson the leader, and he's got it as flat as a lizard. And it's Christopher Watson with one lap to go away from Sean Wilmot, followed by Michael Poole, then coming David Mills, and behind him comes Jeffrey Dole. Down underneath the timer, and the local lad Watson really making a bird of this one. Got away to a pretty slow start. He was beaten out of the gate, but took the high line and comes home a winner. Watson first, Wilmot second, Poole third. Fourth place goes to David Mills, and then comes
The latest booklet updates the Trust's 1972 work, Hunter 2000, revising some of the old conservation recommendations and adding new ones. Cooler Tops brings the number of proposed national parks in the Hunter region to 2, the other being at Melong, embracing all available Crown land in the McDonald Road east of the Putty Road. The booklet describes 10 rural landscapes of scenic, recreational and social value, and the Trust plans to approach the appropriate local councils to secure the areas through local environmental plans.
The Department of Environment Planning has incorporated some of the proposals put out in the earlier publication in some of their guidelines. Some of the specific park proposals outlined in Hunter 2000 in 1972 have now come to fruition, and the Trust always seeks to update its information. One of the pleasing things is that more and more councils are recognising the significance of landscapes that have been man-affected, cultural landscapes such as those classified by the Trust in Pacol and some of the upper Hunter regions.
The point that Dick makes about the Hunter 2000 publication back in 72, there was still a motorway proposed through Blackbutt, there was still a widening of King Street and Civil Line. Dick's book going to give a little bit of background, there was still a motorway proposed through Blackbutt, there was still a widening of King Street and Civic Park. Makes about the Hunter 2000 publication back in 72 was seen as being a
65 members of the FVDFA first went on strike back in January over the manning of this new front-end loader. The Mount Thorley mine wants to introduce the loader to replace older and slightly smaller equipment. The company says one man can drive it. The union wants 2, but there's just a small problem.
It has a cabin on it and a set of controls where only one man may sit. It's not safe to have another man anywhere near the machine while it was operating. The only place a second man could sit would be in some remote place, and probably the lunchroom where the miners go for their lunch.
The strike at Mount Thorley has led to the stand-downs of 98 men, members of other unions including the Miners' Federation, Mine Mechanics and the About 50 more stand-downs are expected by the end of the week. The other unions are so concerned they've called for a special hearing in Sydney on Thursday before the powerful Coal Industry Tribunal. Local organisers of the FEDFA could not be contacted today. They're attending a conference in Sydney and won't be back before Friday. In the meantime, the mine stands idle. A mine which normally produces 35,000 tonnes of coal a week. Management at Mount Thorley says the effect of such a strike is disastrous.
These customers have to go somewhere else for their immediate supplies, and of course you don't always recover all that you've lost in such a dispute as this. In fact, in previous disputes we've lost of the order of 300,000 tonnes of coking coal per year because of 1 year of delay.
The Department of Main Roads intends to construct a second lift span bridge because, it says, studies indicate with carefully regulated opening, the traffic flow in Swansea will be significantly improved. Detractors of the plan, such as the High-Level Bridge to Swansea Committee, dispute these findings. They say the second bridge will be simply twice the volume of the first, and that the $22 million cost of both bridges is inching closer to the $36 million cost of the High-Level Bridge. Mr. George Stewart, chairman of the committee, supports the construction of the National Highway, which will divert traffic from Swansea, but says it in no way alleviates the need for a high-level bridge.
The National Highway coming up with the West of the Lake's a wonderful idea. We're really pleased to hear about that, but our real concern is the Swansea Bridge, and quite frankly the way it's been portrayed is very wrong, and we're very upset about the whole matter.
Isn't it a valid argument that with the National Highway there won't be a need for a high-level bridge across the Swansea Channel?
No, that's not true at all. You've got to realise that the 70% of the people in the Newcastle region live east of, on the eastern side of Lake Macquarie. And the population growth between Lake Macquarie or Newcastle and the Central Coast region is quite dramatic. And it will continue to grow. And nobody's going to duck around the back way, up the National Highway, to come into the city of Newcastle. It's going to be too convenient up and down the highway, and we will have an increase of people there.
What about the argument that a high-level bridge would simply cost too much?
That's a lot of nonsense, because if we'd have thought that sort of thing in the years gone by, we wouldn't have a national railway system, we wouldn't have had a Sydney Harbour Bridge, we wouldn't have so many other public works that have been done in this great country of ours, and this is just an avoidance of the real issue.
Have you attempted to present your case to the Minister for Roads, Mr Brereton?
We've tried many times. We sent telexes to both himself and the Premier. We've tried every way we possibly can to get into the door, even through our local member, through Mr Booth, and with no avail. He's refused to see us, and I feel that's a bit of a slap in the face to the Newcastle region.
Tony Mitchell, and he's the one on hazardous chemicals.
And its submission, the company maintains its plan for waste disposal at Warragoo is environmentally safe, and any suggestion that there is a geological fault which could make the site unsuitable is incorrect. Still, there are many who remain unconvinced.
You know, they're just saying, well, we perceive that it will be all right. It is being cleaned up like that. But I've just put in my thing saying, well, my perception's different. I see some danger from it.
Submissions will be heard until the end of the week. Then it's expected an adjournment will be called so that closing submissions can be written.
Health Services with the focus of the Special Management Practices Seminar held by the Equal Employment Opportunity Group. Around 50 of the highest senior management in the area of health services were looking for a series of people on affirmative action and equal opportunity in employment.
What we're trying to achieve with Equal Employment Opportunity is to create a fair working environment, and obviously senior managers particularly have a great responsibility in this area. They are the ones who make the decisions in hospitals or the various institutions that they come from, so that with an understanding of equal employment opportunity and the many facets of it, we're hoping that they will introduce those practices into the management programs of their hospitals.
But many men will feel that women are being given an unfair advantage, being placed in positions that maybe they aren't qualified for.
I think that's a real fear that people do have, but the very important thing about equal employment opportunity is that its very basis is the merit principle, and that is that people should be employed on their merit, so that we're not asking that women or Aborigines or migrants be employed over a man if the man is more qualified and more suitable for the job. But what we are saying, and what we will be asking the managers this afternoon to look at, is why is it that women are clustered into certain groups, and how can we move them out of those groups?
The main argument of today's hearing centred on whether the clay is impermeable or not. Geologists and engineers with the same qualifications argued on that point. The Hunter District Water Board presented its submission, saying that having a chemical dump so close to a water supply would be of grave concern to any governing authority. The board says it's not particularly concerned about the fluoride bleaching because it says that will be manageable, but it is opposed to any cyanide being dumped at the site. Many residents also presented their opposition to the dump. After the replies are presented on Tuesday, Commissioner Simpson will consider all the submissions and make his recommendations to the Minister for Land and Environment, Bob Carr.
Have been placed in their care by the Australia for Animals Foundation. The organisation was given 30,000 seedlings by the state government and has used them to start koala conservation projects in schools around the state. No one is sure how many koalas are left, but their numbers have been decimated by disease and the clearing of bush for residential development. The seedlings grown at the school will be planted to provide corridors of food between known colonies of koalas at Port Stephens and Port Macquarie.
Well, we've just come back from a trip right down from the Queensland border, and I have to say that Port Stephens is the worst area I've seen. There is immense habitat destruction. There's obviously no concern on the part of the council for what's happening to the koalas, and I must say that it's very opportune that we've sent our trees to this area. You certainly need them.
I think Maitland Rep has bitten off more than it can chew with its production of the very funny black comedy Loot. The play is a savage attack on the family, the church and the law, where everything that happens in this play is in the worst possible taste. There's a coffin that's shunted around the room from pillar to post to make way for some stolen loot that's gone into the coffin. There's a glass eye that falls about on the floor, and an old man who's hounded by everybody for their own gain. And there's more. So it's a very, very black comedy and excruciatingly funny, or it should be. Unfortunately, the Maitland Rep cast, with the exception of Ron Hindmarsh at times, doesn't have the timing and the style required for this kind of play. Lines that sparkle on the page, I'm afraid, fell like little lumps of lead on the stage. Well, it's a very tough play to do, and to its credit, Maitland Rep has never shied away from the toughies. But, well, boldness doesn't always pay, and in this case, I'm afraid, it's more miss than hit.
Bulk down to the harbour.
Like they do in Hong Kong.
Why not? Yeah. And that's the way the harbour operated years ago. So.
Has long been calling for the port to be autonomous. claiming that much of the revenue earned here is spent elsewhere. It recommends...
That's the aluminium, isn't it? No, these are zinc. Yeah.
Turn the page back, John.
Chamber President Peter Evans says the importance of the port to the average Novocastrian is not properly understood.
And the truth of it is that each ship represents up to $500,000 in income locally. Part of it, of course, goes in government taxes, in rail freights and so on, and MSB dues, but a lot of it goes in wages. For instance, a ship coming in to export wheat from Newcastle, it costs about $45,000 to get the ship ready in terms of decontamination, and that $45,000 pretty well goes out in wages to the people who work within that ship.